Today, U.S. officials confirming the first case of the Omicron variant found in the United States. Where was it discovered and how is the patient doing? With home prices rising, the federal government's updating its rules to back bigger home loans. How will it impact home buyers? And a tech startup launching California's first commercial autonomous delivery service. Who will it be available to? That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. U.S. officials have confirmed the first case of the CCP virus Omicron variant found in the United States was detected in California. The patient had traveled from South Africa last week and tested positive Monday. Here's California's governor with the update.
This individual has not been hospitalized. The individuals that this individual has come into contact with have not tested positive yet to our knowledge, and we are hopeful of full recovery.
The person is fully vaccinated. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization expects to have more information on the transmissibility of the new Omicron variant within days. That's faster than the weeks the WHO had predicted last week. But a disappointing day on Wall Street. Early gains were erased. The Dow fell 462 points, about 1 3/10%. S&P 500 fell 54 points, about 1 2/10%. The Nasdaq today falling 284 points, about 1 8/10%. And the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, is worried about how much debt countries have taken on during the pandemic. Here's its chief economist earlier today.
The G20 countries have spent $10 trillion supporting people and their economies since the beginning of the pandemic.
She says the spending was justified during the pandemic, or the beginning of the pandemic. But now the question is, what are governments doing with the money? The OECD also says inflation that lasts longer than expected is the biggest threat to the global recovery. It predicts the U.S. economy would grow 5.6% this year, slightly down from previous projections of 6%. And talking of debt, the Congressional Budget Office projects that the Treasury Department will hit its debt ceiling on December 15th, running the risk of default or government shutdowns. But a new report suggests there is some wiggle room on the deadline. The CBO says it could possibly be pushed into January if Treasury defers some or part of its payments to the Highway Trust Fund. It's scheduled to transfer $118 billion to the fund on December 15th, but part or all of that could be deferred. The Treasury Secretary today saying the stimulus package, officially known as the American Rescue Plan, clearly boosted demand, but said it's not fair to blame it for recent spikes in inflation.
It's certainly true that the American Rescue Plan put money in people's pockets, helped them meet expenses that they had, and contributed to strong demand in the U.S. economy. But if you look at the amount of inflation that we have and its causes, that is at most a small contributor.
Nevertheless, Yellen was grilled by Republican lawmakers about the inflationary impact of Biden's response. She said the stimulus package was justified in the face of falling demand that could have resulted in long-lasting joblessness and high unemployment. The Fed Chair Jerome Powell told lawmakers today inflation, now running at more than twice the Fed's target, is expected to ease in the second half of 2022. But he says the Fed is still preparing for the possibility inflation will stay elevated beyond the end of next year. Chairman Powell says most forecasters believe it will be meaningfully lower by then, but the Fed wants to be ready in case they're wrong.
The point is we can't act as though we're sure of that. We're not at all sure of that. Inflation has been more persistent and higher than we've expected, and we have to use our policy to address the range of plausible outcomes, not just the most likely one.
And Powell says he's closely watching wage inflation. Some economists talk about the wage price spiral, As prices go up, workers demand higher wages, which pushes the price of goods and services even higher. Powell acknowledges wages are rising, particularly for low-wage workers, but says the increases are not happening at a pace that could spark higher inflation. While the Fed mainly blames supply chain problems for rising prices, many economists point to the fact that the Fed and U.S. government facilitated the printing of trillions of new dollars since last year. More money chasing the same number of goods and services can lead to inflation. With the price of homes rising at the fastest pace on record by some estimates, agencies are now raising the limits on government-backed loans. Mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are raising the limits of government-backed loans to a record level for 2022. The new maximum loan limit will be nearly $1 million for high-cost areas. The baseline loan limit will be just around $650,000, up nearly $100,000 from last year's limit. That's the largest percentage increase and dollar increase on record. Good news for some home buyers, but some analysts worry it may mean the government is playing too big a role in supporting high housing prices. Joining us is Randy Thomason, CEO of Arkansas Property Buyers. Randy, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Paul.
Randy, a lot has changed since the pandemic. I don't know if you were surprised. We've been kind of surprised by the price appreciation of houses, particularly single-family homes and residential homes. How difficult has it been for you as a property buyer to kind of navigate between rising prices, but also with material costs and other costs rising so fast as well?
Well, it surprised us, I think, pretty much everybody in our industry. It's a pleasant surprise. But yes, prices have appreciated. One, because of shortage of properties, people are afraid to sell, don't want people into their houses. That was the start of the process. So supply and demand, supply goes down, demand stays high. That drove prices up. Then the supply chain issues. It costs more to rehab a house, to build a house. So that drove prices up. And then the third thing is the influx of cash into the world marketplace by the Fed and everybody. Money is everywhere, so that drives prices up too.
And money is everywhere. We hear a lot of reports of institutional players, big names. BlackRock gets thrown around a lot for coming in and outbidding maybe buyers like yourself or even just regular mom and pop buyers. Are you seeing institutional action in this space?
Yeah, in the bigger cities, institutional action is everywhere. In my state, not so much because it is a smaller state, Arkansas, but in Florida, Texas, Arizona, yes. But that has slowed down as of recently. We just saw Zillow putting, I think, roughly 7,000 houses back on the market in the bigger cities. So that's affecting their prices a little bit, but I don't think it's going to have a long-term effect on prices. The supply is still short, the demand is still high, interest rates are still cheap, supply chain is still restrained, and that, to me, I think is going to continue to happen for a while. So I don't really see any major sell-off in the prices on houses in the near-term future.
Has the criteria for how you spot opportunities changed? Are you using different criteria, or what are you looking at when you're analyzing properties?
Well, with my situation, I have my own niches, so it really hasn't affected mine in that we help a lot of people that are transitioning into senior care communities. And as we know, baby boomers, my generation, I'm the end of that generation, there's 10,000 people per day retiring from the baby booms. A lot of us are going into senior care communities, so they need to sell their houses. So that lead flow is not changing at all.
Very good. Randy Thomason, Arkansas Property Buyers. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
And U.S. manufacturing activity picked up in November, despite continued struggles with shortages of raw materials. The ISM says its index of national factory activity increased to 61.1. Any reading above 50 indicates expansion. Manufacturing accounts for 12% of the U.S. economy, and all of the 6 largest manufacturing activities reported moderate to strong growth. They are still being held back by parts and material shortages, but there are some glimmers of hope. Some manufacturers say prices for steel plate are easing, and supply of plastic resins is also improving. ISM's indicator on supply deliveries also indicates some improvement. And it comes as automakers are striving to keep up with the push from governments and investors for electric vehicles. Some are concerned about the costs of production over traditional gas-powered vehicles. NTD's Colin Fredrickson reports.
The CEO of Stellantis says the added costs of production would have to come out of somewhere else. It could threaten both jobs and vehicle quality. He says the pressure to get more electric vehicles on the road could lead to all kinds of problems.
What has been decided is to impose on the automotive industry electrification that brings 50% additional cost against conventional vehicles. So we have to digest 50% of additional cost.
To keep up with the push, Volkswagen and General Motors have plans to build electric vehicle battery plants. Volkswagen is spending up to $34 billion on battery plants and raw materials. But the company is looking for outside partners for funding. Tavares mentioned more about what problems the additional costs could create.
There is no way we can transfer 50% of additional cost to the final consumer because most part of the middle classes will not be able to pay for those new car sales. So we lose the customer, we lose the customer base, and then we have to shrink the company, which is going to create, of course, social issues.
General Motors is forming a joint venture with South Korean firm POSCO Chemical. The two companies will collaborate on a battery materials plant in North America. The plant will make supplies for 4 battery cell plants that General Motors plans to build. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
And self-driving tech startup Nuro says it's rolling out California's first commercial autonomous delivery service. It's in partnership with convenience store operator 7-Eleven. Nuro says the service will start with Toyota Priuses converted into autonomous vehicles and will include a safety driver to monitor the technology. Nuro and 7-Eleven will decide together when to introduce the company's own driverless vehicles. The service will be available to customers in Mountain View, California, where Nuro is headquartered. It is already delivering Domino's Pizza in Houston using its Prius and driverless vehicles. Nuro was the first autonomous vehicle startup to get a permit to use automated vehicles. It said earlier this month it raised $600 million and brought in Google as an investor. And the European Union Commission said today that it presented a $340 billion global infrastructure plan. Global Gateway seeks to support projects that boost trade and ties between the European Union and partner countries around the world. The plan seeks to rival China's Belt and Road Initiative. That's been criticized for opaque deals that lead to debt traps and encourage corruption. NTD's Joy Duguid tells us more.
The European Union on Wednesday unveiled a multi-billion euro infrastructure initiative aimed at bolstering its global influence. The bloc plans to mobilise up to £250 billion in public and private funds by 2027.
Global Gateway is the European Union's plan, or you may call it roadmap, for major investment in infrastructure development around the world.
Many see the plan as an attempt to counter China's infrastructure initiative, One Belt, One Road. China, since 2013, has been developing ports, bridges and power plants to link mostly developing countries into a global trade network for global influence. Some recipient countries have criticised China's projects for opaque deals that lead to debt traps and encourage corruption.
We want to take a different approach. We want to show that a democratic, value-driven approach can deliver on the most pressing challenges. We want to show that it can, on one hand, meet local needs, but also, on the other hand, tackle the global challenges we have.
Von der Leyen says the EU's plan is about quality infrastructure. in the health, education, digitalization, and green energy sectors.
It will invest around the world to support our priorities, that is the green and the digital transition. Think, for example, of investment in clean hydrogen. We have partner countries that have an abundance of renewable energy, think of wind or solar, to produce hydrogen, which is of interest for them as well as us.
She adds that the global gateway will be in line with high labour and environmental standards. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
And still to come this evening, the home cleaning robot Roomba has a new update for the holiday season. Could come in handy for cleaning around your decorations. And home theatre demand is exploding. We speak to a projector screen company to get the latest. We have that and more coming up on NTD Business.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
The ongoing supply chain crisis? Big tech and other woke companies giving billions to the liberal left? Where will you shop for Christmas? Go to Mammoth Nation. We created a safe place for patriots to spend their money for Christmas and beyond. Shop thousands of products from American and veteran-owned businesses. Shop to the right, give to the right. This is how we fight tyranny. Go to MammothNation.com right now and become a lifetime member today. Use promo code EPIC and save 30%.
The performance was enchanting.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted. It touches you. It really does.
The expertise of the dancers was really, really strong.
To know that it was live music was really fantastic.
We didn't want to miss this.
Make sure you see it.
Have to come. Life-changing.
Coming to West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, November 8th through January 9th.
Welcome back. Projectorscreens.com says home theater demand has exploded during the pandemic. Meanwhile, an audio software company that works with big Hollywood titles says the movie industry has yet to return to pre-pandemic numbers. NTD's Olin Richards reports.
Brian Gluck is the owner of Projectorscreen.com. Gluck saw the home theater industry explode during the pandemic.
Everything with guns off the ground, go!
When the pandemic hit, with the lockdowns and the lack of going out, we saw a tremendous amount of growth of people that were spending more time at home and investing in technology for their house as well to consume and enjoy content at home.
Gluck says business surged 60% between 2019 and 2020 and 80% between 2020 and 2021. Gluck says a certain new technology has also contributed to the boom.
Laser TV or ultra short throw projection. So traditionally, in our area of expertise being large format displays, specifically projection, we were primarily selling into places with dedicated theater rooms. Now with the advent of this laser TV segment, people are able to get large format displays, 100-inch, 120-inch, put in their living room in a moderately to well-lit environment and have a tremendously larger visual image.
Meanwhile, the movie industry is still doing worse than before the pandemic, according to Nuno Fonseca, the CEO of Sound Particles. Sound Particles sells audio software. To movie producers. Their work has been featured in films such as Dune, Wonder Woman, and Batman vs. Superman.
Most of the people that work on the movie industry, they are freelancers, and that means that if there isn't any work available for them, you don't receive a salary, and that we felt, since most of our clients are also freelancers, we felt that impact in terms of them. Luckily, things are starting to move forward, and both studios and most of these professionals were able to adapt. Nonetheless, it's something that we are still far away from the numbers that we got before the pandemic.
Fonseca says business decreased 80% at the beginning of the pandemic, but revenue has recovered substantially since then. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And the automated Roomba vacuum has a new holiday-themed software update. It's using AI to avoid knocking over your Christmas tree. Its J7 and J7 Plus RoboVacs can now recognize areas to clean and areas to avoid. That means you can tell it to pick up pine needles around your Christmas tree, but also designate a keep out zone in the middle so it won't knock the tree over. The RoboVacs can now also recognize and avoid socks, shoes, cords, and pet accidents. That feature was out in September. And gifts for pets are major trends at this year's Spirit of Christmas fair in London. Dog and cat ownership has surged in the UK during the pandemic. Now people are looking to give back to their pets this Christmas. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Pets have been widely credited for helping people get through the pandemic, especially when lockdowns meant human interaction was restricted. Christmas can be a chance for us to say thank you to our dogs, cats, and other pets. At the Creature Clothes stand, luxurious cushions, festive clothing, and pet-friendly toys are all on display.
I spend more money on my dogs than I do on my kids right now, which is probably bad. But I think people are just more willing and wanting to give back and share the love back to their pets that have given so much to us through all the hardship through the last year and a half.
In the wake of the pandemic, people are more likely to splurge on their pets this Christmas than ever before. But owners won't just be buying gifts for their pets this Christmas. The Snowflake Christmas Emporium stand sells canine ornaments. Winard Wilkinson and his wife get them handcrafted from all over Europe.
They're all handmade, they're all hand-blown glass, they're all hand-painted. And when we started going to see the various makers, one would have their own pet dog and they'd have made models of their dogs. And then my wife had this idea that we could have lots of dogs, because she's dog mad anyway. And then we sort of built on that.
Snowflake Christmas Emporium also offers cats and other animal decorations, but their dogs remain the most popular. For those who want something a little more personal, artist Abigail Rayner will create a felt double of your pet.
I have a lot of people coming and saying, oh, my son and daughter have just got a lockdown puppy, or we've just got a lockdown doggy, and so I think definitely more people have got pets this year, but people love their pets and it's always been popular, lockdown, pre-lockdown, now.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
What would you guess is the most expensive city to live in? You might think of Hong Kong, Tokyo, or New York, but actually the right answer is in the Middle East. NTD's Arlene Richards takes a look.
Which city in the world is the most expensive to live in now?
Either Tokyo or Los Angeles.
California.
Probably like New York City.
The winner may surprise you. Tel Aviv, Israel. That's according to a report by the Economist Intelligence Unit, or EIU. It's the first time Tel Aviv's topped the list, rising from the 5th place last year. It pushed Paris down to join second place with Singapore. The report says Tel Aviv rose up the rankings mostly because of its soaring currency and inflation. Israel's currency, the shekel, has appreciated. That means local costs are more expensive when translated into U.S. dollars. As for inflation, prices were up 3.5% year over year in September, the fastest rate in 5 years. The prices of 1/10 of goods in the city are up, led by groceries and transport. The report said supply chain problems, fluctuations in currency exchange rates, and changes in consumer demand all contributed to the rise. The head of worldwide cost of living at the EIU, Upsana Dutt, says prices are expected to rise further across many cities over the coming year. And she says they expect central banks to raise interest rates cautiously to stem inflation. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
That's the latest business updates for today. You can still catch NTD Evening News. That's with Stephanie Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, it's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.